Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. I will talk about fire safety and evacuation in tall buildings. After my presentation, Professor Brian Meacham will talk the related topics. So then we too continuously give you the lectures, and then we'll have a question and answer time. This is a high-rise building in the west in Shinjuku Station. It's one of very nice high-rise building area in Tokyo. In the 1970s, there are some new ones, but mostly during the 1970s, this high-rise building was were built in Tokyo. Of course, we have more than much more new high-rise building in the other places, but this is one of very symbolic area of high-rise buildings in Japan. I will talk about the two things. First, the past example of high-rise building fires. As I was introduced by the facilitator in the morning, I graduated from Kyoto, the Graduate School of Architectural Engineering in Kyoto University in 1972. And I directly entered the master course of the same course when Andros tall building fire occurred. And my laboratory already started the fire safety research even that time. So I was really involved in the study and the investigation to learn from this fire. I don't need to explain much about this fire because you are Brazilian, you know much more than I know. But it's a very shocking fire to us, and as a second section, as the fire was covered live on television broadcast, the scenes of people throwing themselves from the windows shocked the world, which is leading to the first security discussions in buildings. Then next year, as you know, Joelma building fire. It's much more severe fire and resulting in the 179 deaths and 300 people injured. Because flammable materials had been used to furnish the interior, the entire building was engulfed in flames within 20 minutes. Joelma fire remained the third world skyscraper, a worst skyscraper fire ever in terms of the death toll, even after 9/11 event in 2001. The Joelma fire became a landmark case that led to changes in fire safety regulation, not only in Brazil, but all over the world. For instance, Los Angeles enacted Regulation 10, which mandated all new buildings taller than 75 feet to have a rooftop helipad for emergency fire evacuation. I took these pictures yesterday when we were walking around São Paulo, Paulista Street. So, as you know, the high-rise building which lacked some one more exit stairs should have some bridge between the buildings like this. And also in the right picture, building named Asahi building should have the exterior exit in addition to the existing stairs. So it is a typical scene after the regulation was changed after the German building fire. At the same time in Japan, when I was a student in the master course in the university, which was doing the fire safety, there was a fire. Also very deadly fire. 118 people died in the fire, only the 7-story sandwich department store building. The fire broke out at 22:27 in the night in the sales floor, the women's dress on the 3rd floor under the renovation work due to unspecified cause. And the smoke very quickly spread out to the entire building through the vertical shaft of stairs and the elevators. Even it's in the night, on the 7th floor, there was a nightclub on operation where most of victims were found. 118 died. And again, the very similar period to the Brazil, in 1973, we have another deadly fire. Taiyo Department fire in Kumamoto City in Kyushu. In this fire, 103 people died in the 13 stories department store again in the daytime. The fire broke out the stairs at the landing between 2nd floor and 3rd floor and spread from the 3rd floor to the top floor, I think again within the less than 1 hour. And 103 people of shoppers, working staff, and the construction workers and the like were killed. The fire protection systems such as sprinklers were out of action in course of construction work, which amplified the damage. These two fires coincidentally occurred as the two high-rise fires in Brazil also occurred. In 1980s, there was another high-rise fire in U.S., which is called the First Interstate Bank Building Fire in 1988 in Los Angeles. As a member of Japanese government investigation team, I went to the site and I entered inside the building to look at the damage. And we made a report about how fire spread out and how people escaped. Unfortunately, it's written in Japanese. And I want to show this fire gave us the very good lessons for the fire safety in tall buildings. First, I want to show you the video movie which was made by the Los Angeles City Fire Department.
Sir, I don't know the address. I'm just down the street from it. I'm calling from another building.
You're calling from 600 Wilshire?
Yes, I am.
Do you know where the intersection or the address is?
It's on Hope and Wilshire Boulevard.
Okay, so we're on our
Pretty
way.
good fire, too. It's up on the top floor.
Okay.
The first calls came in at 10:37 p.m., and within a minute, several units were rolling.
Task Force 9, Task Force 10, Engine 3, Squad 4, Battalion 1, respond to the structure fire, the intersection of Wilshire and Hope. That's Hope and Wilshire.
OCD from Battalion 1 on the scene.
624 West Wilshire. We have fire showing from several windows.
The first units arrived on the scene in 4 minutes to join a battle that would last 3 hours and 42 minutes from start to finish. The fight and the fire escalated quickly.
I'm going to need 5 additional task forces, 5 additional engines, 5 chief officers.
We have a fire, looks like the 11th floor, 11th floor, fully involved. We have people on the roof that are in need of rescue. We want our first helicopter
Ejected the plane
to
from
assess that
windows, not
situation
from inside.
and get those people off the roof.
It would turn out to be the 12th floor, but there was no underestimating the size and potential of this fire.
Now it's went up to the 13th floor.
high-rise fire going.
2 floors now involved.
now.
Deputy Chief Don Anthony was called in from his home to direct the fight as incident commander. Wilshire IC in his radio communications with Central Dispatch, OCD.
When I came over the Coinga Pass from the San Fernando Valley down towards Coinga Boulevard, I could in fact see the fire in the building from there, which was more than 8 miles away, and I realized that this, and listening to the radio messages coming in, that this probably was the most significant high-rise fire that we had had in the city.
It was, in fact, the tallest building in the city, the 62-story First Interstate Bank, and the size of the fire would continue to grow.
Wilshire IC from OCD. The company that you have assigned at this time is Task Force 26, Engine 17, Engine 13.
As soon as the first arriving officer made his call for the additional resources, the department puts into operation automatic dispatches of other resources. We had far more resources already moving than just the engines and the trucks that were called for, the task forces, by the on-scene fire commander. I think all of the senses tune up. I think that people, the adrenaline starts to flow. We react in emergencies, and we react better in emergencies. And one like this, everything just comes into play and starts to flow, and people just really get into doing those types of things that they're trained to do.
And yourself, Battalion 1.
At 23:22, 45 minutes after the first call, this was Wilshire IC's assessment.
Chief Anthony, go.
It looks like it's on the 12th and 13th floors, fairly well involved. Got all of pretty much of the 10th, the 12th floor. We don't have the 13th yet. However, we do have water moving on to the 13th floor now.
And here's how the battle was staged.
From the fire site, this is how we set up our logistics for this incident. Came out here to base, which was approximately a block and a half to 2 blocks directly south of the fire, where all the apparatus came into before they went into the fire. Moving then a little bit north, a little closer towards the fire. This is our air filling, where emergency air filled all of the air cylinders being used by firefighters on the fire. Directly across the street is the command post where the incident was managed. On Wilshire was our medical group set up to treat the patients and firefighters and civilians being injured in this fire. Moving then up towards the fire building, directly north of the building was the fire department inlets to augment the water system of the building. We supplied water in here through 6 pumps. A number of the hose lines from the pumps were cut by falling glass out of the building and had to be replaced a number of times during firefighting
and cut the hose, and
because of the debris,
several hoses
the
are
glass
damaged by the falling the glasses. And entering from the ground floor is very dangerous, so they decided to enter the building through the tunnel. The inside is entirely burned down from 12th floor to the 15th floor. So the 16th floor are heavily damaged and the 17th floor are just a little damaged. But finally, they decided to take some action. So now you can see the hose, water discharge by hose. They entered through the tunnel in the building, and they take stairs, not elevators, stairs up to the, not fire floor. They climb up to the 2 floors up, 1 floor and 2 floors up the fire floors. So then it's a 16th floor and the 17th floor. Firefighters was deployed on the edge of the building. This is the window, and edge of the window, and take a hose, and the flame is not from inside, the flame from outside through the window. They waiting for the flame come and water discharge from the room. That was really successful. 70 floor, there are almost no damage. 16 floor, the halfly damage. But the strategy they took is hose lines arranged along the window edge. Okay, I finished movie. On the fire floor, on the 12th floor, fire started by some malfunction of a PC, and it is thought the fire cause is in the, from the PC, and this spread out through the floor. However, the important thing is fire zoning, compartmentation in the center core is a very protective. 2 hours fire rating protect center core. So almost no damage inside the center core. That's the most important thing for high-rise building. So the firefighters, they don't use, of course, there are naturally the firefighters lift, but at that time, before the 2008 in US building code, even though there are fire lift, I think in Brazil also you have a fire lift, but it's not safe from fire. Fire and smoke, the same thing. They can manipulate fire elevator cargo from inside, but only the thing, what they can do is only that kind of self-control operation, but no safe. Then the firefighters use the stairs inside, very safe stairs, to access to the above 1 floor, 2 floor up from the fire floor. So then they can reach the 16, 17 floors and waiting fire comes. That is the main reason to stop the fire spread. I don't go in detail about, but so maybe I push good better. This is the route of evacuation, but it's too too much in details. Okay. So I skip this slide. If we have a time in discussion time, so we can explain. One of the reasons of a fire spread from the ejected flame in the exterior wall is they have a very small size spandrel between the floors. So then the flame easily goes up, ignite to the upper floors. This really happens in the First Interstate Bank building. What is a spandrel and for what purpose? The left picture showed the, I think many of Brazil, the high-rise building in Brazil has a similar configuration. You have some building may have a spandrel, but many building has not spandrel, only glass between floors. So what happened in that kind of buildings? So then easily glass was broken and the ejected frame goes to the inside. But if you have a spandrel like this, fire is interfere to enter the inside. This is the purpose of spandrel. And in Japan, what I heard from Rosaria, now you have 120 centimeters or more spandrel in the high-rise building. So this is the purpose of that, to stop the fire spread from window. Then, now, there is another issue emerging, especially in the East Asia and the Middle East. The frequent occurrence of fire causing large loss of life and property along with the increasing number of high-rise fires in Asia. These issues are relating to the use of sandwich panels and the exterior wall insulation. This is a newly emerging fire risk of high-rise buildings all over the world now, including Grenfell apartment fire in UK, London. So China, 2009, after the Beijing Olympic game, they had a very serious fire, a high-rise fire in China TVCC building. But this news was not so released to the world because the Chinese government want to confine this news to the world. But only Japanese one TV made a news, so I showed that one. This is exterior fire. Can you imagine? It's not explosion, it's a fire. It's not explosion, it's a fire. Aluminum sandwich panel on the exterior wall was ignited and started a very rapid upward fire spread. That's a very surprising scene. Even the reporter is standing 100 meters away from the fire scene, but still feel very hot. Sorry in Japanese, but you can see the picture. Even very excellent fire brigade in Brazil cannot control this fire. Once it occurs, no way. Within 30 minutes, a half hour, the entire building was involved in the fire. because this fire broke out before the open, so then there was only one big fire death in firefighters. There are some workers, construction workers inside, but they are safe. This is one luck. Oh, this is a CCTV fire. And also, in 2011, there was another big fire occurred in the five-star hotel, the highest in the northeast region in China, Xinyang. Very high-class hotel was totally burned down like this. Very similar scene as the CCTV fire. It's also the exterior wall was burning and the fire spread is through the external wall. Maybe it's insulation material or the sandwich panel on the wall. This is not the CCTV, this is a Xinyang five-star hotel. This news was also not released to the worldwide, but someone knows. Sandwich panel and its issues from the viewpoint of fire safety. Although a sandwich panel is deemed to be fire-related, after the designated fire test and the small box test in cone calorimeters, so it may start glow and spread very fast once the interior filling is ignited. Sandwich means some materials for insulation like urethane, which is a very combustible, but it's fire retardant, they say the fire retardant urethane is sandwiched with the aluminum or zinc swing panel. So it looks like a steel or aluminum panel. But even it's a very thin that the inside is combustible materials. In the small box test, fire combustion performance test, it's passed and it's ranked, it's rated as incombustible materials. However, as you witnessed already, if they used for the external materials for the high-rise building, and once it got ignition, it is ignited, the fire is very progressively spread up to the top within a very short time by these external materials. Up to the first interstate bank building fire, the fire, of course, fire spread again from window to window, but it takes about 20 minutes by each. 20 minutes by each floor, one floor up. But in this case, even though the 30 stories floors high-rise building, it takes only 30 minutes from the bottom to the top floor. Fire brigade cannot take any action to stop the fire. But if in the first state bank building fire, you can do something through that inside the stairs, and we can wait for the upward fire spread on the non-fired floors. But in this case, we have no way to stop. That's the more serious situation now we are facing. So Grenfell Tower, this fire will be told by Meacham, Brian Meacham, Professor Brian Meacham. So I skipped this explanation. So then I moved to the second part. My second topic is relating to the study of use of elevators in fire evacuation in the high-rise building. Again, this one. First, I'd like to describe the issues or fire protection strategy. A, measures to confine a fire within the floor that a fire started and to prevent fire spread to upper and lower floors. Second, measures to prevent smoke diffusion by fire to upper and lower floors. Third, plan for prompt and safe evacuation in a high-rise building. Fourth, facilities for prompt access for firefighters to upper floors. Fifth, issues regarding the evacuation by elevators. While elevators were used in many cases for evacuation in the past. Six, measures of evacuation for disaster vulnerable people, such as aged and disabled people, etc. I will talk about the issues of these the last two items. In many past fires in the high-rise building, not a few people used elevators for their evacuation. Population of aged people has been rapidly increasing. Accessibility of disabled people has been improved. So many disabled people and the handicapped wheelchair users now in the upper floors, especially in the public building, the cinema building. Potential demand of elevator use in evacuation has been growing recently, especially after the World Trade Center collapse in September 11th. Requirement and features of fire protection to a tall building by regulation in Japan, such as building codes and the fire codes. Requirements and the features of special egress stairs in Japan. All stairs that connect to the 15th and the higher floors are required to be special egress stairs. It should connect directly to the ground floor. It should be compartmentalized with fire-rated walls. It should be attached with a vestibule with small control system in front of the entrance door of stairs. Mainly used for evacuation of occupants, but after evacuation completed, it may be used by fire brigades. Requirement and features of emergency elevators in Japan. Buildings with 31-meter height or higher are required to be installed with emergency elevator from 1970. It's very important. In Japan, even from 1970 period, all high-rise building which exceeds 31 meters has firefighters lift, which is very safe from fire and smoke, and supported by generators, emergency generators. So Japanese firefighters can use elevators for high-rise building even from 1970s. But US, they changed the building code to high-rise building should have the real fire lift in the building, IBC building code from 2008. The emergency elevator is required required number of emergency elevators is depending on the maximum floor area among floors over 31 meters height. Within 1,500 square meters, one, over 1,500 square meters, one by 3,000 square meters. Compartmentation with fire-rated wall is required along the elevator shaft. Smoke control system is required in the lobby. Compartmentation with fire-resistant door is required in the lobby, and mainly used for rescue and firefighting by fire brigades. But now the discussion has started for allowing the disabled people to use this firefighter's lift before firefighters' action. And then requirement and features of fire protection systems in Japan, which was required by the fire service law. Buildings that have 11 and higher floors are required to be installed with sprinkler system. Buildings that have 4 and higher floors are required to be installed with indoor fire hydrants. Buildings that have 5 and higher floors together with the 6,000 square meters in the total floor area are required to be installed with standpipe risers in the UK. Buildings that have 7 and higher floors are required to be installed with, this is the same thing, sorry. Regardless the size of the building, regardless of the floor area, and many other systems according to the circumstances. Then the question in this topic here are, if occupants try to use elevators in evacuation, how can the effectiveness of it be realized? Which is more preferable between the evacuation by elevators and by stairs, according to the condition? Simplified model to evaluate evacuation time by elevators we developed. The feasibility study to examine the issues of elevator use in evacuation. Purpose of case study is the comparison between the evacuation time by elevators and by egress stairs. Comparison of transportation efficiency between two operational modes of emergency use elevators. The third is comparison of efficiency between the evacuation by emergency elevators and the evacuation by egress stairs as a function of the ratio of elevator use. Our model of elevator service operation for evacuation can handle the multiple elevators, can change the performance of elevators independently, speed, capacity, and priority of stop floors. This high-rise building is the target in the case study. This building is located in the Shinjuku area, about 24 stories high-rise. And this is plan and section. So there's two special egress stairs on both ends, and attached to the egress stairs there is emergency elevators, and there is a very safe best view. You can see the office room and the corridor, and to enter the stair, you have to open the door again. So you have to open the twice doors, and then you can reach the stairs and you can reach the emergency elevators. But in the, yes, this is the usual common elevators. This is for firefighters, but it's usually open. This is usually closed. And these are usual elevator. Premises for case studies. A fire occurs on the bottom floor in floors for one of the each bank. In the bank where a fire occurs, only a fire smoke-proof emergency use elevator and or fire smoke-proof egress stairs are available for evacuation. We don't use common elevators in this case study. The occupants on the fire floor are assumed to move down by stairs to the floor just below the fire floor. No influence by fire and smoke is considered during the evacuation, as the transportation efficiency is the main target of concerns in this case study. I skip this. And the floor configuration of the elevator, I already told. So, in the case study, I compare the evacuation by this emergency elevators and the emergency egress stairs from these floors, 14th first floor to 53 first. We neglect other floors because simply compare the occupant on the dangerous zone. The fire floor is 41st floor, so then the occupants above the fire floor should leave fastly. This is the result. So you can see we need an explanation. Debunk is the case for case study. If you use emergency elevator, there is two elevators on each floor. If we use the two emergency elevators, it will take 6,000 seconds for total evacuation. But if we use the egress stairs, it can be, no. The bottom one, evacuation by stairs for debunk. If we used the special egress stairs, two egress stairs, 6,000 is reduced to be the 1,700 seconds, almost 1/4. And even though all occupants in the whole building, if they use the evacuation stairs, it takes about 4,000 seconds, even shorter than only people on the upper floor, 41 to 53 floors, people use the emergency elevators case. All occupants, if they take the egress stairs, it's much shorter than this one. So many people think elevator is faster than the going down through the stairs. And many people believes 50 stories walk down is very hard to walk. But if you try once, at least once, take stairs from 50 stories to ground floor, not so much tough. If you walk up, go up by stairs, it's very tough, of course. Heart is beating very quickly, but going down is very close to going horizontally. You should try once. So I really did it in some training, the evacuation drill in the high-rise building. At that time, I have some damage in my heart. So I tried to join that young people, the group, and just follow this group. The natural speed downward through the stairs. I have no problem to catch up with them. So the question is, which is faster to use, elevators and stairs? And elevator is, of course, faster than the walk down, but the capacity of the cargo is one time is very limited. Only the 15 people are allowed to get in. And sometimes some confliction between the inside and outside, every stop floor. It takes a much longer time. So the waiting time is most crucial, most in the elevator use. So then if you use the stairs, it's much easier and faster. That's my comment from this study. So then I also finally stop. This is the final slide of my presentation. So someone has the idea to the best combination of use of elevator and the stairs. I agree. So then I studied the evacuation time as a function of elevator use. So the bottom horizontal axis stands for the elevator use ratio among the total occupants, from 0% to the 100%. So red line stands for the evacuation time by elevator, and the blue markers line stands for the evacuation time by egress stairs. So this crossing point is just best combination. The same time, both has same time. So if the use of elevator ratio is about 16-17%, is the best combination to use the emergency elevators. And other 85% of occupants should better use the stairs. So then everyone is happy. So I really recommend in the last, the only disabled people, aged people, and pregnant ladies and some small kids must be prioritized to use emergency elevators, not common people for not complete. Common people are able-bodied people must use the exit stairs. For these vulnerable population, if common people want to use emergency elevators as likely as the vulnerable people, so there might be very chaos and the confliction among the people. So able-bodied people and the common usual-bodied people used desire to use the egress, and some designated people who are vulnerable in walk down, especially in walk down, must be prioritized to use the emergency elevators. That's my concluding remarks. So again, if all occupants in each bank try to use emergency elevators, it takes much longer time than the case of evacuation by regular elevators, as well as the case of evacuation by egress stairs. On the other hand, evacuation time by 2 egress stairs is quite similar to that by 8 regular elevators in each bank, if it can be used. As evacuation by egress stairs is much safer than the evacuation by regular elevators, so it is recommended that most of general people should better use fire and smoke-proof egress stairs, except the people who have difficulty to use the stairs in their evacuation. The evacuation completion time by emergency use elevators is increasing at a great rate in proportion to the elevator use ratio, among the occupants. To compare with evacuation by egress stairs, the advantage of elevators use in terms of transportation efficiency appears in certain limited conditions such as 25, I think it's much smaller, 20% or less of elevator use ratio among the occupants. If elevator use group can be designated only for the small part of occupants, such as disabled people, it will be effective to use elevators in evacuation for those people. However, for other general people, it would be better to use stairs for their evacuation in most cases, as well as to let evacuation of disabled people by elevator more effective. This is the most important. But in some symposium relating to the human behavior in fire, majority of the researchers' opinion is the evacuation elevators must be used for the high-rise building. But even evacuation elevators, there's no, no priority for the people, among the people. Because we cannot control the people's decision to use the elevators. That's a continuous discussion in this topic. Additional comments, and there is the possible difficult situations such as the conflict among the occupants inside and outside elevators in conjunction with the priority of elevator use in evacuation. Once an elevator door is opened, it may be not smoothly closed as assumed, and it would take much longer time than expected in the calculations. The question here is how can we control this kind of human behavioral problem in emergencies? This must be another key issue to be addressed in discussion. Thank you.